My fiancée said, "I'm inviting my sugar daddy to the wedding. He's paying for my dress." I said, "Excuse me?" She explained she'd been seeing him just for money for 6 months. I replied, "Keep the dress." Then I ended the engagement and sent his wife the evidence. When both their marriages imploded, I, 29 male, am an HVAC technician. I fix heating and cooling systems for commercial buildings. I say this up front because my ex-fiancée, had a habit of describing my job as blue-collar in this tone that made it sound like she was apologizing for me, like she was ordering at a restaurant and had to explain that her entree came with a side she didn't choose. He's an HVAC, but he's really good at it. Thanks, babe. Real supportive. We've been together for 3 years, engaged for 4 months. The wedding was supposed to be in October. We'd already booked the venue, a mid-range event hall that ran us $6,800 for the Saturday evening slot. My parents had put down $3,000 toward catering. Her parents were covering flowers and the photographer. I was handling the DJ and the honeymoon fund. Not a lavish wedding, but solid. The kind of wedding where people actually have a good time instead of sitting through a 40-minute ceremony wondering when the open bar starts. She worked as an office manager at a dermatology clinic. Made decent money, around $52,000 a year. I was pulling in about $68,000 with overtime. Combined, we were comfortable. Not rich, not struggling. We just signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment together. Life was on track. Then about 6 weeks before the wedding, she dropped the bomb. And I mean, she dropped it casually. Like she was telling me she'd picked up almond milk instead of oat milk. We were sitting at the kitchen table going over the wedding budget spreadsheet because, yes, I'm the kind of guy who makes spreadsheets. Judge me. And she said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. The dress is handled. You can take that $2,400 off the sheet." I looked up. "What do you mean, handled? Someone's paying for it." Ooh. She took a sip of her iced coffee. Didn't even put it down before she said it. "My sugar daddy." I stared at her. She stared back. Took another sip. "You're what?" "It's not what you think. It's just a financial arrangement. He gives me money. I keep him company sometimes. Dinners, that kind of thing. He's paying for the dress as a gift." I closed the laptop. Slowly. "How long has this been going on?" "Like 6 months. But it's not cheating. We haven't slept together. He just likes spending money on younger women. It's honestly kind of sad. 6 months. Yeah, but we've been engaged for 4 of those months." "I know, but it has nothing to do with us. It's separate. It's like a side hustle." A side hustle. She called having a sugar daddy a side hustle. Like she was selling candles on Etsy. I sat there for probably 30 seconds without saying anything. She started talking again, something about how lots of women do this and how it was basically just networking, but I wasn't really hearing her. I was doing math in my head. 6 months of dinners. 6 months of gifts. 6 months of some other man financing my fiancée while I was crawling through attic insulation at 6 a.m. thinking about our future. "Who is he?" I asked. "You don't know him. He's older. Like 50s. He's married, but..." "He's married? Yeah, but that's his problem, not mine. And you want to invite him to our wedding. Not to the ceremony, just the reception. He's been really generous, and I think it would be rude not to." I pushed my chair back and stood up. She finally put the iced coffee down. "Keep the dress," I said. "What?" "Keep the dress. Keep whatever he gave you. We're done." She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, an actual dismissive laugh, like I'd said something ridiculous. "You're overreacting. I literally just saved us $2,400 and you're mad. You have a sugar daddy. You've had one for 6 months. You're engaged to me. This is not a conversation about a dress. It is about the dress. That's all it is. You're making it into something it's not. I'm making it into exactly what it is." I grabbed my keys and left. Drove to my buddy's house and sat in his driveway for about 15 minutes before I even went inside. When I finally told him what happened, he said, "Brother, please tell me you're joking." I was not joking. That night, I slept at his place. The next morning, I called the venue and asked about their cancellation policy. We were past the window for a full refund. I'd lose the $2,000 deposit. Fine. That hurt, but not as much as sitting across from a woman who thought a sugar daddy was a side hustle. I texted her, "I'm canceling the wedding. I'll come get my stuff from the apartment this week." I think we should talk about breaking the lease. Her response was 18 messages long. I'll summarize. I was insecure. I was controlling. I was threatened by a strong, independent woman. I was going to regret this. She'd done nothing wrong. Every woman she knows thinks I'm overreacting. And my personal favorite, you literally fix air conditioners for a living. You should be grateful someone like me said yes. That last one, that one I screenshot and saved. Because when someone shows you exactly how they see you, believe them the first time. Now here's the part where things get more complicated. I knew the sugar daddy was married. She told me that herself. And look, I'm not some moral vigilante. What other people do in their marriages isn't normally my business. But this wasn't abstract. This was a man who'd been financing my fiancée for 6 months while she planned a wedding with me. His wife deserved to know, and I had the means to tell her. My ex had been sloppy. Careless, actually. Her iPad was still synced to our shared Wi-Fi, and before she changed any passwords, I saw a notification pop up from a messaging app. Not a text. One of those disappearing message apps, with a preview that showed his first name and the beginning of a message about next Thursday. That was enough for me to do some digging. I'm not a hacker. I didn't break into anything, but she'd left her laptop at our apartment, and she used the same password for literally everything. Her childhood dog's name plus the year she was born. I'd set up her email once, and she never changed it. I opened the messaging app on her laptop, and there it was. 6 months of conversations, dinner plans, Venmo confirmations, photos of gifts, shoes, handbags, the wedding dress, and enough identifying information about him. His first name, the company he referenced, a photo of his car in a restaurant parking lot for me to figure out who he was. He was a regional sales director for a medical supply company. Mid-50s, married for 22 years, 2 kids in college. LinkedIn profile with a family photo as his banner. The American dream, apparently, funded by dinners with 26-year-old women. Finding his wife took about 8 minutes. She had a public profile with her workplace listed. She was a school counselor. I composed a message. Short, factual, no editorializing. I attached 3 screenshots. One of the Venmo payment label for the dress, gorgeous. One of a dinner selfie my ex had taken with him, his face clearly visible, his hand on her waist, and one of a message where he said, and I'm paraphrasing to protect details, that he couldn't wait to see what she wore to her own wedding. I sent the message on a Wednesday afternoon. Then I put my phone in a drawer and went to work. Update 1, 9 days later. Okay, so a lot of people told me to prepare for the fallout. I thought I was prepared. I was not prepared. Let me go in order. The wife, the sugar daddy's wife, responded to my message within 4 hours. It was 2 sentences. Thank you for telling me. I know this must not have been easy for you either. That was it. Clean. Dignified. I felt genuinely terrible for her. My ex found out I'd sent the message about 48 hours later. I know this because she showed up at my buddy's house where I'd been staying at 9 p.m. on a Friday, banging on the door like she was trying to audition for a home invasion movie. You contacted his wife. My buddy opened the door. She pushed past him. He looked at me like, bro, your mess, your cleanup, and went upstairs. You had no right to do that, she said. Not yelling anymore, but that low, shaking voice people use when they're furious and trying to sound composed. That was my private life. Your private life involved a married man while you were engaged to me. What happens between him and his wife is not your business. What happened between you and him while you were wearing my ring is my business. His wife deserved to know, just like I deserve to know. Do you understand what you've done? His wife is talking to a divorce lawyer. He cut me off completely. Everything is ruined. For who? She stared at me. For everyone. Seems like it's ruined for him and you. I'm doing fine. You're doing fine? You're sleeping on your friend's couch. Correct. And I'm still doing fine. She tried a different angle. Sat down. Got quiet. Said she loved me. Said the sugar daddy thing was a mistake and that she'd gotten caught up in the attention. Said she'd end it immediately, which was funny because he'd already ended it by cutting her off. Said we could still make it work. The venue was booked. The invitations were out. Her parents had already paid for the flowers. Please, she said, don't throw away 3 years because I was stupid. And honestly, that almost got me. Not because I believed her or because I'd changed my mind, but because when you've loved someone for 3 years and they're sitting on your friend's couch looking small and desperate, your body doesn't immediately catch up to what your brain already knows. There's a lag, an emotional latency, and for about 10 seconds, I felt it. Then I remembered, you literally fix air conditioners for a living. You should be grateful someone like me said yes. The wedding is canceled, I said. I need you to leave. She left, but the campaign was just beginning. Over the next week, her family activated like some kind of entitlement sleeper cell. First, her mother called me. This woman had always been polite to my face, but I caught enough sidelong glances and overheard enough half-conversations to know she thought her daughter was settling. Her call confirmed it. I think you're being very selfish, she said. My daughter made a small mistake, and you're punishing her and destroying another family in the process. Ma'am, your daughter had a sugar daddy for 6 months while engaged to me. She told me it was just dinners. There were Venmo transfers totaling over $9,000. That's not dinner. Silence. Then, well, that's between them. You had no right to involve his wife. I disagree. You've embarrassed our entire family. We've already told people about the wedding. What are we supposed to say now? The truth would work. She hung up on me. Then her sister, younger, 23, even more entitled somehow, started texting me. Not angry texts, manipulative ones. She's been crying for 3 days straight. She hasn't eaten. She's talking about hurting herself. That last one I took seriously enough to call her mother and express concern, only to be told her sister was being dramatic to get your attention. Cool family. Then the sugar daddy's world started collapsing, and somehow that became my fault too. His wife didn't mess around. She filed for legal separation within a week of receiving my message. I know this because the sugar daddy, a man I had never met or spoken to in my life, somehow got my phone number and called me. You just cost me my marriage, he said. No, sir. You cost yourself your marriage. You're a kid. You don't understand how the world works. I understand that you were paying my fiancée $9,000 over 6 months while your wife thought you were at sales conferences. She's going to take everything. The house. My retirement. She's going to drain me. That sounds like a conversation for your lawyer. I could sue you for this. For what? Telling the truth. He hung up. He did not, in fact, sue me. But here's what he did do, and this is where I got genuinely angry for the first time. He threw my ex under the bus. Completely. Told his wife that my ex had pursued him aggressively and that he was a victim of a younger woman's manipulation. His wife's divorce attorney apparently had a subpoena for his financial records, and in an attempt to paint himself in a better light, he gave a statement claiming my ex had solicited the arrangement and that he'd tried to end it multiple times. My ex, naturally, blamed me for this too, because if I hadn't told the wife wouldn't have hired a lawyer, the lawyer wouldn't have requested financial records, and the sugar daddy wouldn't have needed to point fingers. In her mind, the entire chain of consequences traced back to me, not to the 6 months of choices she and this man made together. Her father called me. First time he'd ever called me directly. Quiet guy, retired electrician. I always liked him. He said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I want you to know that regardless of what happened, you were always good to her, and I'm sorry it turned out this way. That one actually made me tear up a little, because he was the only person in that entire family who treated me like a human being instead of a problem to be managed. Update 2, 3 weeks later. Things kept unraveling for everyone involved, and by everyone, I mostly mean the people who created the mess in the first place. The sugar daddy's divorce proceedings became a real thing. His wife's attorney was thorough, pulled 6 months of credit card statements, Venmo records, hotel receipts, so much for just dinners, by the way. Turns out there were hotel charges my ex conveniently forgot to mention. The financial picture was ugly. This guy had spent somewhere in the ballpark of $14,000 on my ex when you added up everything. The $9,000 in Venmo was just the direct transfers. Restaurants, gifts, 2 hotel stays she swore to me never happened, all on his personal Amex. His wife's attorney argued the spending constituted dissipation of marital assets. For those who don't know, that basically means one spouse wasted shared money on something outside the marriage, and the court can factor that into how assets get divided. His $14,000 affair fund was now Exhibit in a divorce that was going to cost him a whole lot more than $14,000. I found out about most of this through an unexpected channel. The sugar daddy's wife reached out to me again, not to vent or gossip. She wanted to know if I had any additional documentation. Screenshots, messages, dates. I told her I'd preserved what I'd originally sent and could provide it again in a more formal format if her attorney needed it. She thanked me. We exchanged maybe a dozen messages total over 2 weeks. All business. She was handling her situation with more composure than anyone else in this entire mess. Meanwhile, my ex was dealing with the fallout of being thrown under the bus by the sugar daddy. Because he'd painted her as the aggressor in his statement to his wife's attorney, my ex's name was now in legal documents associated with his divorce. She wasn't a party to the case. She couldn't be subpoenaed or anything, but her name was in the record. And in a small enough professional world, that matters. It mattered because the sugar daddy's wife worked as a school counselor. She had a wide network. She was well-liked. And while she didn't go on a public campaign, she also didn't keep quiet when close friends asked what happened. Word got around. My ex's name got around. Not on social media, in real conversations. Whisper networks. The kind you can't delete or block. My ex started getting weird looks at her job. The dermatology clinic she worked at was in the same general professional orbit as the sugar daddy's company, medical adjacent. One of the dermatologists she worked for apparently knew the sugar daddy's wife through a professional association. He never said anything directly to my ex, but she told her sister, who told a mutual friend, who told me, that the vibe at work completely shifted and she felt like people were talking about her. They probably were. Because that's what happens when your sugar daddy's wife is a well-connected school counselor in the same professional community where you work. Actions meet consequences. Now, the apartment situation. This was its own nightmare. We'd signed a 12-month lease together 2 months before the engagement blew up. Both names on it. When I told her I was leaving, she said she'd keep the apartment. Fine by me. I just wanted off the lease. Except she couldn't afford it alone. The rent was $2,100 a month, and her take-home after taxes was about $3,200. That leaves $1,100 for everything else: car payment, insurance, groceries, phone, credit cards. Not sustainable. She asked me to keep paying my half until she found a roommate. I said no. She said I was legally obligated because my name was on the lease. She was technically right. I couldn't just walk away without consequences. So I did the responsible thing. I contacted the landlord, explained the situation, and asked about early termination. The fee was 2 months' rent, $4,200. I offered to pay my half, $2,100, if she paid hers. She refused, said I was the one blowing up the relationship, so I should cover the full penalty. I pointed out that she was the one with the sugar daddy. She said that was irrelevant to the lease. Technically correct. Morally bankrupt, but technically correct. I paid the full $4,200. It destroyed my savings. I'm not going to pretend that didn't sting, because it absolutely did. But I needed my name off that lease, and I needed to be free of any legal connection to her. Sometimes freedom costs $4,200. I paid it. She moved back in with her parents. The same parents who've been calling me selfish and embarrassing. Their 26-year-old daughter was back in her childhood bedroom because the sugar daddy money dried up. The fiancé left, and $3,200 a month doesn't go far when you've been living supplemented by 2 men's incomes. Her mother, naturally, blamed me. Her sister blamed me. My ex blamed me. The sugar daddy probably blamed me too, between meetings with his divorce attorney. You know who didn't blame me? Her father. He sent me one more text about a week after I paid the lease termination. It said, "I heard about the apartment. That wasn't fair to you. I'm sorry." I didn't respond, but I saved it. Because decency from unexpected places hits different when you're surrounded by entitlement. Update 3. Final, 6 weeks later. Last update. I know this has been a ride, and I appreciate everyone who stuck with it. The sugar daddy's divorce was finalized about 5 weeks after the initial separation filing. His wife pushed for a fast resolution, and he agreed. Probably because every week the proceedings continued, more of his spending was getting documented. The final settlement, from what the wife told me in her last message, was significantly in her favor. She didn't give specifics, and I didn't ask. But he lost the house. She got primary custody arrangement for the holidays. Both kids were in college, but it still mattered for family property and planning. His retirement fund took a hit because of the dissipation argument. The court agreed that the $14,000 spent on my ex constituted waste of marital assets and adjusted the split accordingly. He also had to sell the car. The one in the restaurant parking lot photo. Some kind of BMW. I don't know cars well enough to tell you the model, but it was the kind of car that tells you a man is trying very hard to feel young. He drives a Hyundai now. Nothing wrong with Hyundais, but when your identity is built on looking like a big spender, the downgrade is its own punishment. The wife sent me a final message after the divorce was done. She said, "I know you didn't do this for me, but what you did gave me the truth I needed to make the right decision. I spent 22 years with someone I didn't actually know. I'd rather start over at 53 than spend one more year pretending. Thank you." I read that message 3 times. Because she was right. I didn't do it for her. I did it because I was angry and hurt, and I wanted the man who'd been bankrolling my fiancée to face the same reality check I was facing. It was selfish, honestly, but it also happened to be the right thing. Sometimes those overlap. Now my ex. The final chapter. She tried one more play about 3 weeks after I paid the lease termination. She had a mutual friend, a guy we'd both known from college, reach out to me with a peace offering. The pitch was she was willing to forgive me for contacting the wife if I was willing to sit down and have a conversation about whether there's still something worth saving. Forgive me for contacting the wife. After SHE had a 6-month sugar daddy arrangement while wearing MY engagement ring. The audacity was almost impressive. Almost. I told the mutual friend, "There is nothing to discuss. Please don't contact me about this again." He respected it. Good dude. 2 weeks after that, her sister sent me one last message. Not manipulative this time. Almost desperate. She said my ex couldn't make her car payment, that she was behind on her credit card, that she'd applied for 3 other jobs because the atmosphere at the clinic had become unbearable and she thought she was going to be let go, that she was sleeping in her teenage bedroom, staring at a wedding dress that would never get worn, paid for by a man whose divorce was now public knowledge in their professional circle. Her sister ended the message with, "I know she messed up, but does she deserve all this?" I thought about that for a long time. Genuinely. Not rhetorically. I sat with it for a full day before I responded. And here's what I said. She doesn't deserve all of this. But I didn't cause all of this. She made choices for 6 months. He made choices for 6 months. I made one choice, to tell the truth. Everything else is the consequence of what they built together. I'm sorry she's struggling, but I can't fix what I didn't break. Her sister didn't reply. I didn't expect her to. The engagement ring. People keep asking about the ring. It was a 0.8 carat diamond, white gold band, cost me $4,100. In my state, an engagement ring is considered a conditional gift. If the wedding doesn't happen, the ring legally belongs to the person who gave it, regardless of who caused the breakup. I asked for it back. She refused. I had my lawyer send a formal demand letter. Cost me $200 for the letter. She returned the ring 4 days later. I sold it to a jeweler for $2,600. You always lose money on resale with diamonds. That $2,600 went straight toward rebuilding the savings I'd torched paying the lease termination. So here's where I am now. I'm back in my own apartment, a 1-bedroom, nothing fancy, $1,450 a month. My buddy helped me move in. My mom bought me a set of pots and pans as a fresh start gift, which was sweet even though she also cried for 20 minutes and told me she always thought that girl had shifty eyes. I'm not dating. I'm not on apps. I'm working overtime, rebuilding my savings, and honestly just try to remember what it feels like to come home and not wonder what I'm not being told. The venue deposit, $2,000, is gone. The lease penalty, $4,200, is gone. The lawyer letter, $200, is gone. I lost roughly $3,900 total after the ring resale. That's what a sugar daddy in your relationship costs, apparently. Plus the intangible stuff, the 3 years, the trust, the future I thought I was building with someone who was auctioning her company to the highest bidder the entire time. The wedding was supposed to be next Saturday, October 12th. I know this because my phone calendar still has a reminder I haven't deleted yet. Wedding day, don't forget boutonniere. I'll delete it eventually. Just not today. Some final thoughts for anyone still reading. If your partner tells you something disturbing about themselves and frames it like it's no big deal, trust the information, not the framing. She told me about the sugar daddy the same way she'd tell me about a dentist appointment. Casual, unbothered, like it was already decided and my opinion was a formality. That delivery was its own red flag. People who respect you don't blindside you with betrayal dressed up as a budget update. Also, and I know this is controversial, I don't regret telling the wife. Some people said I should have walked away from my relationship and left his marriage alone. Maybe they're right. Maybe it wasn't my business. But I kept thinking, if some stranger knew my fiancé was seeing someone else for 6 months and chose not to tell me, I'd want to know. The wife deserved the same courtesy. I fix heating and cooling systems. I crawl through ceilings and basements and attics in July. I come home smelling like refrigerant and insulation dust. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. And honest is apparently worth more than I thought, because the woman I almost married couldn't seem to manage it even once. That's the whole story. Thanks for reading. I'm going to go delete that calendar reminder now.